Anytime you're working on the combine head, obviously the parking brake is engaged, you're right in front of the machine, it could roll over you, but you want to make sure that the machine, the head cannot come down and crush you. You've got this safety that locks the cylinder, drop it down. See how it's got this lip up here that hangs up here, and then it locks so that you're safe underneath the head. You have no chance of getting crushed. To return it to the position, you just grab the handle, lift it up, and make sure it's locked up in place. So with the safety down, let's just take a look at a couple things under the head. This here is the rock box. When you're running in soybeans in particular, you're going to end up picking up a few rocks with the sickle because you're cutting them right on the ground. So when you're doing soybeans, I would highly recommend dropping this rock box every day. If you're in corn or wheat or barley or anything that you're cutting up off the ground, you probably only have to drop this once a week. Obviously, if you're running through really rocky territory or you've heard a lot of them go through the machine, then you probably want to check this rock box. And what happens is rocks come in the head, go up the throat, and then right before they get to the rotor, the feed house accelerator, as they're going around, if they can't fit between the feeder house accelerator and the bottom going into the rotor, they get pushed down into this rock box. To empty the rock box, you grab this handle, it's off center, and so it locks when it's in place, and then you just grab it and you let it open up. And obviously if there was any rocks, they would all be in here, and as you let it fall, they all fall out. To replace it, you just push it back into place, make sure it goes over center, and it locks in place. Obviously before you do that, you want to make sure the safety's on so you don't get crushed. When you're setting the head down on like a head trailer, you want to make sure that when you set it down, that you set it down on this beam or this, when you want to make sure when you set it down on this pipe, and not that one side is setting on this or resting right on the edge. You want to make sure that it's in this flat area right in here. So you're not setting it up against the edge or on here, just so it's in this area here and it's sitting down nice in the cradle. You know, it's usually like a L shape that's holding it in place. So you just want to be very careful of that. Each side of the combine has this diagram. It lets you know where each of the grease zerks are, and these numbers that are at each of the grease zerks tells you how many hours is recommended to do the greasing. So 50 and 400 is the most normal intervals. So 400 are usually, you know, a one time a year at the very beginning of the year you want to grease those. The 50s are obviously depending how many times, the 50s obviously depending on how long you're working every day and how much dry weather you have. You may have to do every 4 or 5 days. And then just follow this diagram and make sure you hit all the 50s. One thing to make sure is this here. These are the sheaves that drive the rotor and the inside right on top of the rotor, and then right here the rotor drive right here. And you notice there's a 50 and a 400. And I want to point this out, the difference between them. You'll notice here on the 50, it actually has a grease zerk in it. The zerk is in place. On the one that's a 400, it has a dummy plug so that you don't accidentally grease the wrong one too often. So obviously the one with the grease zerk is the 50, the dummy plug is the 400 that you'd only do once a year. And the same for the inside on the sheaves for the top of the rotor, the same deal. And then likewise on this side of the machine is the same diagram for all the different grease zerks that are on this side of the machine. And the hour ratings for them. The ladder here, as you can see, is about 8 feet tall. You want to be careful as you're climbing up and down to make sure you're using the handrails. When you exit the cab, a lot of people are tempted to just kind of go down like this and jump. Well, you're putting yourself at a great risk for a fall. I would highly recommend turning around and using the handrails and going down backwards. This way, if you do start to lose your grip, you're just going to slide down and hit the ground versus potentially falling flat on your face. As you can see, this tire is a lot larger than myself, and it doesn't matter if it's a corn stalk or if it's your body. If a driver's got it in gear, it's going to ride over you and it will crush you. It is very serious that you pay very close attention to which way the machine is is going, and that if anyone's in the cab, that you don't go anywhere near to take a leak, to work on something, to do anything. You want to make sure you're in the clear. If someone's in the cab, as soon as you hear that machine start up, get a ways away, because if you can't see him, he can't see you. And you can see there's a lot of blind spots on a big machine like this, and just because you can see him in his mirror, if you're behind the back tire, doesn't mean he's going to look before he backs up, or he or she's going to see you. So please take it serious. Have an enjoyable time out here, but remember, this is big equipment. Whether it's a corn stalk or whether it's your leg, if you get in the way of that head of that machine, it's going to strip your leg off the same way it does an ear of corn off a stalk. Please take it serious. Those pulleys, the chains, all those moving parts are very, very dangerous. Keep your distance and use your head. Another thing to remember is only replace the shields when the machinery's off. Only work on the machine when it's turned off. It's not worth the risk. Everything here is controlled by an electronic switch. If that switch malfunctions, this whole machine comes on, with or without someone in the cab. It's just not worth your life or your limb. Thing you want to remember when you're transporting this equipment down the road is how wide it is. This particular one has a large metric tire on. Some of them have duals on. They can be as wide as over 17 feet wide. You want to really, really be careful to share the road and get out of people's way when you're meeting them, so not to hit anyone. As you notice, this auger sticks past the back of the combine a significant ways. It's something you need to keep in mind when you're backing up, you're doing point rows, you're backing into a fence line. You got to look out for power lines, poles and trees, because it's pretty easy to think, oh, I got plenty of room. You're looking in your mirror, you're looking down here at the back tire, and you can see kind of the fence about right here, and you don't even think about the fact that this auger is sticking back another 10, 12 feet from the fence, and you could potentially stick it right into some trees. The other thing to think about is when you're turning and you make a hard, like, right turn, the back of the combine kicks hard to the left, and so if you're in a tight confined area, you can accidentally swing that auger folded in up into something because you're trying to snake between a farmer's driveway, and you can stick it right into a shed or into a tree. Like we've done here, we've done a bunch of work to the machine. A good habit to get into is as soon as you're done working on the machine, you do a walk around just to make sure all the shields are back in place so you don't accidentally back them over. Obviously all your volunteers and farmers are out of the way, and then also your tools and, you know, lunch box, all those kinds of things, because it became a work site for an hour or two while you were fixing on something, and now you want to make sure everything's out of the way so that you're safe to move. Once you have the head loaded onto the head cart, you want to make sure all the snoots are up, because as you can see, they overhang the trailer by quite a ways. There's no need to have that oversized width. So you take the snoot all the way up. You see how this pin here comes into the locking position, and now it's just as narrow as the trailer or the pickup you're hauling it. Then you can just go down the line, lock them all into place. You notice these here, if you have one snoot that's out of adjustment, that's a little bit higher or a little bit lower, you can adjust them by the settings on these each individually to get them all evened out. To reverse the process, when you're done moving it, you just take the pin up, just drop it down, and these snoots just rest. That's what allows them to flex, go up and down with the contour of the land if you start going through a draw. So they don't lock down any position, they just lock in the up position. And this feeler, when it's up in the up position, just hangs down here. That's just the way it hangs. These markers, if you're running along fence lines with a lot of trees and you're worried about knocking them over, you can go ahead and fold them in. That way it gives you a little more clearance so they're not getting ripped off if you're trying to sneak into driveways. But then you can turn them back out to give you the full width marker when you're going down the road. Obviously, when you take this down the road, you want to have a couple straps running over it to make sure it's held down in place. You don't want to just leave it laying free. You want to make sure it's tied down. This machine right now is set up for small grains, wheat, barley, rye, canola, soybeans. All the small grains have pretty much the same settings. There's a few minor tweaks, but the major settings that you can't do from in the cab that you have to actually physically do on the outside of the machine is only really done between small grains and corn. So right now it's set up for just about everything else. When we go to corn, you'll notice how the clearance in here is not enough for an ear of corn. What we need to do to change that is on the sides over here, you've got these pins. The next thing you're going to want to adjust is the feed accelerator. This is what takes the corn or the grain from the throat into the rotor and evenly distributes it. Right now it is set on high. When you go into corn, you want to set it into low. So the first thing you need to do is take this linch pin out of here, take this shield, slide it forward. There's a little bolt here that's kind of a safety to keep this shield from falling out and getting run over accidentally. So you got to take the back of the shield and pull it out just a little bit towards you, and it continues to slide out. Again, we'll set the shield a long ways away so it doesn't get ridden over. This here is the tensioner. This is what puts tension on the belt. So take the tensioner, slide it up, and then down. And now you can see how it takes all the tension off. So now what you'd have to do to change this from a small grain to corn, take this belt here off the big pulley on the receive side and put it to the small one. And this is the drive. We want it to go slower, so we take the drive side and make that one go larger. So we take this off and put it on top of here. When you're done, you take this tensioner, put it back up into the lock position, and it provides your tension for the belt. On our way back, changing from small grains to corn, we're going to move to this deflector. You pull this pin out, let the deflector go up into the up position. We have these nice decals, small grains, corn. Want to make sure it's in the corn position. What this is a deflector gate, and what it does is stops cobs from coming off of the discharge beater and coming into the front portion or the upswing of the hammers on the chopper. So what we want to do is keep the cobs from coming in here and causing damage to the chopper. As this chopper is spinning from our angle here, it would be clockwise. We want to keep the cobs from coming up against the top side and then in turn damaging them and damaging the rest of the combine as those cobs get propelled forward into the machine. So this deflector, and it is very important that this deflector is down to prevent damage to the machine and to keep you running smooth. Fifth and finally, what we need to change for small grains to corn is your chopper speed. Right now it is set on high for all small grains. For going to corn, you want to go low. You've got so much more stalk debris and cobs and such, you don't need that chopper spinning at such a high rate of speed. You need to just turn it down a notch. So the easiest thing to do to change the belt, which is covered by these shields, you need to remove the shields. You got a little deal you have to turn, a half a turn down on the bottom, and then you got the two dog ears up top. You got to slide up, and then they slide right out. After the shields are removed, the easiest way to take the tension off, other than taking this spring loose, is to take the chopper and move the chopper assembly up. So if everyone in the clear, you go up here, select the chopper raise, electrically the chopper raises up, takes tension off the belt. After the shields are off and the chopper is raised, now you're able to come in and move the belt to the high or to the low side for doing corn. Right now it's set up for the high for all small grains. Once it's in place and you make sure its double groove belt is in place up top and bottom, make sure everyone's in the clear, and now you can go down and lower the chopper into place. If you're at a case where the farmer would like to bale the bean straw or the wheat straw and he does not want it chopped, then you can raise the chopper up, and I'll show you where to put the belt so it's out of the way so it doesn't get ruined. You'll notice once it cuts into the fully raised position, these pins automatically come in place and act as a safety. So if a person has to climb into the machine to drag stuff out, if it's plugged, or has to take a look and work on the machine, it's safely locked up, and there's pins on both sides. Now this belt just can't stay here, because if it stays here, this part here is turning at all times. So right now we're dumping the straw on the ground, we're not chopping it, but we're going to destroy this belt. So there's this hanger that goes up along the top. So you take the belt out of the groove in the pulley, and then you hang it around this hanger. And notice how it's got a groove up top here and a groove down here. This tightener, of course, is going to stay here and it's not going to be turning, and the chopper itself isn't going to be turning. So as long as it's out of the way of the drive pulley, your belt's going to be in good shape. Now the thing to remember is, when you lower this back down, when you're done dropping the straw on the ground, you have to make sure that you take this belt off of these brackets. If you don't, you will bend those brackets up against the pulley and create a pile of work for yourself. So make sure the first thing you do before you drop it is take all the shields off again and take this belt from its hanging position and put it back in position on the pulley. When you're ready to lower it, you take these safety pins and rotate them a half a turn till they're held in position here. Notice it's free. And then as you drop the machine down, it'll automatically pop free, and then when you return it back up, it'll be in position. Don't forget there's pins on both sides, same concept. Half a turn, locks in place. Now we'll go over here to the selector and drop it down. And you notice now the pins are in position, so if I decide to go back up, they're going to lock right in place. In corn, you want to make sure that these knives are completely retracted. These hammers and these knives will get totally destroyed if you leave these knives up in corn. To adjust the knives in the back of the chopper, you must loosen this wing nut and then slide the knives into position. Now this would be the position you would want it in for soybeans and wheat and any small grain. For corn, you'd want to have it in the down position, all the way down, as you can see, as signified by this little decal here, that corn you want the handle all the way up, which pulls the knives all the way in the down position. And then retighten. There we go. Then again, on a corn head, you're going to have two universal joints you got to connect, and then your universal hydraulic and electrical connection to make, which also engages your pin. On a corn head, you have the first thing that hits the ground is the snoots. This feeler here is what adjusts the contour master, so it automatically knows how much to angle and tip back and forth. That middle one adjusts how high and how low the head or the snoots go automatically. So these are your feelers for your automatic controls. As the corn comes into the machine, first thing it comes in contact with is the strip rolls. The strip rolls grab the corn and strip the stalk through the head, leaving just the ear on top. These are the gathering chains. These gathering chains take the corn up into the These chains take the corn up into the auger and into the machine. These here are called deck plates. These deck plates are adjustable, and you can adjust how much width there is between this plate and this plate. And that's adjustable from inside the cab. That gives you the amount of deck plate adjustment you have. On small ears, you want to have these deck plates very, very close. On big ears, you want to have them a little bit farther apart. You don't want to have them so far apart that corn goes through, but you don't want to have them too tight that they plug up. From the gathering chains, they go to the auger. The auger takes everything to the middle, and it's up into the combine through the throat. This happens to be a chopping head. Underneath this head, these are the chopping blades. These spin around at a high rate of speed and chop the stalk up. I don't claim to be no expert, but I do enjoy what I do, and I just wanted to throw in a couple tips to maybe make your experience more enjoyable. I would say number one, obviously, is the safety of other people and watching where my machine is at all times. You've got a lot of other volunteers, families from the farm families, and media, and so you want to make sure that you're cognizant of where people are at all times. I would highly recommend before you start moving or you engage the machine that you hit the horn a couple times just to let everybody know that, hey, I'm about to start moving. It gives them an opportunity to get out of the way before you start moving. Also, when you start moving, just start off nice and slow, so that if somebody is next to the machine, they can sense it start to move and run out of the way. You don't want to just immediately take off like you're on fire, because you could end up running somebody over who happened to be in the wrong place and weren't, paying attention, and it's just not worth it. So just start out nice and slow before a person takes off. That way you give a person a chance to get out of the way. Myself, when I'm unloading on a grain cart in the field during the daytime, if I start unloading on a guy, I'll obviously have my auger out and we'll be unloading. And as soon as I start unloading on him, I will go ahead and select this middle switch. That turns my cherries or my beacons on at the corner of the cab. I will leave those beacons on until I'm completely done dumping. That way, if we don't have a radio, he's able to know when I'm done dumping and to go ahead and pull out of the way, because a lot of these grain carts are so high you can't see it from the cab if I'm actually unloading or not. So it gives the guy that option. At the nighttime, when I'm unloading, I will go ahead and turn on this left row finder or unload light by selecting this lever down on the steering column, and that shines the light off towards the auger, and that allows him to know that I'm unloading. It also helps me see what I'm doing, and then as soon as I'm done unloading and I hit the off button for the auger, I return the row finder back to the neutral position, which then turns the light off, so he knows I'm done unloading. In my experience, I've found it's almost better to not have radios than it is to have radios, because each of us make little mistakes and you start to get on each other's nerves when you're on the radio. Hey, slow down, or hey, speed up, or this or that. I find it's much better to just use signals like this to signify and let people know when they need to be in, when they need to come. On all of these combines that have the cherries, when it's at 3/4 full, the lights automatically come on intermittently and let the grain cart operator know that it's time to get to the combine. When it's completely full, or the full sensor, and that will come up on this screen here. It comes up 3/4 full or 4 of 4 tank full. And when that happens, the lights stay on continuously, and that lets the grain cart operator know it's time to come. When I'm done unloading grain, I've seen way too many augers wrapped around telephone poles, trees, grain carts, the auger of the grain cart that's up. So as a rule of thumb, as an absolute principle of habit, every time I'm done unloading, I fold the auger in to make sure that it doesn't come in contact with any power line poles or anything. It's just one less thing to think about, and the wear and tear that you're putting on it is nothing compared to the damage you can do with that auger being out. I would highly recommend folding it every time. However, when you're folding the auger in, a person needs to be very careful that when you're folding it in, you don't accidentally fold it into the grain cart. A lot of grain carts, like 650 bushel and higher, have sides that are higher than the auger as it folds in. When the auger folds in and back, it comes down. When it folds up, it comes way up in the air. So what can happen is, as you're folding the auger back, the grain cart operator can stop or slow down, and you end up putting the end of the spout of the auger right into the side of the grain cart and tear the boot off, or worse, dent the auger. So a rule of thumb is don't fold the auger in until the grain cart operator is either way behind you, and you can see that in the mirror, or he's pulled way off to your side and he's out of the way. That way you don't ever run the risk of closing the auger into his air cleaner or exhaust pipe or cab of a 4-wheel drive or the side of the grain cart. The other thing to really watch as an operator is your snoots, your outside corners of your head, because it's so wide. When you turn that wheel, almost immediately the ends of this head start to move fore and aft and to the outside. So you really want to pay attention on this wide farm equipment to where your snoots are, and keep your snoots out of the fence line, out of terraces. Terraces present a huge challenge. If it's a choice between sticking the snoot into the terrace or leaving a little, just leave a little crop on the edge. It's not worth bending the snoot off into a terrace. The same goes for a fence line. It's better to stay just a little bit away than to rip off a snoot. There's 4 things you want to pay attention that are on the forefront of my mind. Number 1 is probably backing up. You have to do a fair amount of backing up when you're opening a field, when you're turning around in tight corners, different places. When you pick up a head off of a head hauler, there's different times you have to back up. You want to use your mirrors all the time and back up slow and easy. Number 2 is the outside corners of your head, your snoot, the back of your machine, just your outside edges. You're always constantly trying to pay attention to what's right around the outside edges. Number 3 would be your auger. If you're getting ready to unload or just after unloading, that auger's hanging out there. Poles, fence lines, poles and fence lines, irrigation systems, all kinds of different things can come in contact with that auger. Fold it in as soon as you get a chance. And then probably number 4 is making sure that I'm harvesting at full speed. I would highly recommend that you only use 2 of these buttons here, turtle and rabbit. The middle button, if you start harvesting in the middle position, you're only setting yourself up for a plug machine and hours of work.